Canton Townie sing this song, doo-da, doo-da. Canton corruption all day long, oh doo-da day. Of all the things that Allie McCabe testified to, the only thing that the media took notice of was her allegation that she was harassed. I say allegation because it is just an allegation. There's no evidence to support it. I know there were protests at the time in and around Canton and near their home, but that's not the same as harassment. Nonetheless, that was the only takeaway that the mainstream media had from her testimony. But there was an ultra weird detail that she included in her testimony that for some reason Lally seemed ultra concerned about. Here's that segment of her testimony.
And when the game gets over, where was it that you went?
I believe I was just driving around with two of my friends. And then as we were driving, we came across a dog on the side of the street. We knew a snowstorm was coming. So we picked the dog up and then brought it to the police station and then drove the dog back to where its owner's house.
So you, when you say drove around, whereabouts were you driving around?
Through Canton, pretty aimlessly, just driving.
And at some point you come upon a dog, is that correct?
Correct.
And where was that?
On Elm Street.
And this was a dog obviously unfamiliar to you, is that correct?
Yes.
So what did you do with the dog?
The dog ran over to the car when we stopped and picked the dog up, and we didn't really know what to do with it, so we brought it to the police station.
Do you recall at all what kind of dog it was?
No, white.
Small dog.
It was small. It was white and brown. Not sure what type.
And so while you're at the police station, what, if anything, did you learn about that dog that you brought to the police station?
I went in the police station. The dog stayed in the car with one of my friends. And as I was walking in and telling the officer that I found a dog, he got a call from the owner, and she asked if she was like, "Oh, can you return my dog, please?"
And so you brought the dog back to the owner?
Yes.
Do you know about what time all of that was going on?
I'm not sure.
So yeah, what was that unnecessary detail all about? If it were just that Lally wanted to put her somewhere at a specific time, then he would have already known that she didn't know what time that was. Or he could have introduced into evidence CCTV of her actually going into the police station at that time to prove that she was where he thinks she was at that time. But it really doesn't seem to me that that was the point of him going into detail about the little brown and white dog, because he didn't follow it up with anything. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the thing that did capture my attention was all the hoo-ha they were making about the white Jeep and making sure that everybody knew that it was Higgins' white Jeep. I thought maybe they're just trying to discredit Ryan Nail's testimony by putting the white Jeep in between his vehicle and Karen Reed's vehicle so that it might seem he couldn't have seen what he was saying he saw because there was a Jeep in the way. But shout out to Joe Flipperhead for bringing this to my attention. Guess who else has a white Jeep? Not just any old white Jeep, a Jeep Wrangler. You know, the type of Jeep that works best in a blizzard. Allie's car, a little blue Ford Fusion, was not equipped for driving in the snow. So now we're all wondering, was Allie McCabe driving Jen McCabe's white Jeep Wrangler that night? And more importantly, why did Jen McCabe switch out the soft black rooftop for a hard white rooftop a little while later? Could it possibly be because Higgy's white Jeep Wrangler had a black soft rooftop as well? And could the unnecessary detail about the little brown and white dog be some sort of cover story for Allie's Life 360 or maybe even CCTV later showing that she was getting around in Jen McCabe's white Jeep with a dog in the car? Of course, CCTV isn't going to show us how big or small the dog is or what kind of dog it is. It's probably just going to show the shape of a dog in perhaps the passenger seat. And I suspect that dog was Chloe. The reason I suspect that dog was Chloe is because nobody mentions the dog barking. Jen McCabe doesn't mention the dog barking at her when she burst into the bedroom and surprised her sister. Nobody hears the dog barking at the women shrieking out the front of the house, or the sirens, or the cops coming and going to and from the house a little later in the morning. Nobody mentions getting bailed up by the dog. So is it safe to assume that Chloe wasn't there by morning? Did Allie end up with 2 dogs in the car, one that doesn't like other dogs? Either way, I do think Allie was driving Jen McCabe's white Jeep Wrangler, and that Jeep Wrangler ended up back at Brian Albert's house at some time during the night, and that is why they were making a big deal out of Higgy's Jeep Wrangler being out the front when clearly it wasn't. Because according to the logs of him coming and going at CPD, he was already at CPD when everybody tried to claim his Jeep Wrangler was out the front of Brian's house. I don't think they thought well enough ahead when they made up this storyline that it might make Ryan Nagel look like a liar, or that it might discredit the theory that Karen could reverse up and hit John and still miss the Jeep. No, I think they were more concerned about getting Allie McCabe off the hook just in case she was seen driving Jen McCabe's Jeep. So if we put 2 and 2 together, we have Allie driving Jen McCabe's Jeep, and then everybody frantically trying to put Higgy's Jeep at Albert's house, then that means that Allie had to have driven the Jeep to the Albert's house at some stage, or else they wouldn't have bothered with all of that effort. I could be wrong, but it seems to me like Allie McCabe drove Jen McCabe's Jeep over to the Alberts to pick up Colin, and then the accident had already happened by that stage, and so they've asked Allie and Colin to take the dog, because you can't have a dog hanging around with all that blood everywhere. I dunno what they did with the dog, but I suspect the Life 360 data might give us some hints. I wonder who lives near the school that might have taken the dog for them. I mean, that's just one of many places that showed up on the Life 360 data. But even the fact that Jen McCabe didn't want to say that the Life 360 data was reliable, and Allie even denied the Life 360 data, that tends to indicate there's something to hide there in the Life 360 data, and that it probably has less to do with Colin than it does Chloe. There are other theories getting around that suggest maybe Allie wasn't lying about the little brown and white dog. That maybe she actually did pick up a little white and brown dog that night, although it's beyond me why it even came up at trial, because it's not really relevant to anything, and Lally didn't even try to put her at the police station at any specific time. Nonetheless, I am open to suggestions, and for that reason I am going to invite a guest who discovered something that may give credence to this little white and brown dog onto a live stream to discuss it with us and to show us what he found. It's looking like being next week sometime, but just know that's on the cards. Anyway, that's my untold story for today. There seems to be a lot of hanky-panky going on with these Jeeps, and it doesn't seem like the media is interested in exploring any of these possibilities. They seem to be happy to run with a whole bunch of unfounded allegations of harassment than actually investigating what happened to John O'Keefe. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Court TV and Law and Crime and all the other mainstream media outlets who have done zero investigation into the gaping holes in witness testimony. I think you all know as well as I do this is what they hate about Turtle Boy, who, as it turns out, is a far better investigative journalist than any of them put together. Once again, shout out to Joe Flipperhead for bringing this particular untold story to my attention.